Welcome back to the King's Corner, the place for all things Bethesda. I am the KingFanMan, and after a week of church camp, it is good to be back. You know, I begin each of my videos with, "This is the place for all things Bethesda," because I try to cover all that Bethesda has to offer. Granted, I do tend to focus mostly on my favorites, which is Bethesda game studios, like Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, and normally that works out just fine because a majority of people love those games as well. But what about the other games Bethesda has to offer? With the mobile VR card games from Bethesda Game Studios, along with all that Bethesdasoftworks publishes, that is a long list of games and a very wide variety as well. And as I learned the hard way this week, sometimes you will find that none of your favorite games will help you in a pinch. Well, before I explain that statement, and before I explain why I needed rescued this week, let me back up for just a second and say a little bit more about Bethesda games in general. Sometimes there are some in the Bethesda community who put down any game that isn't Fallout or the Elder Scrolls. Or maybe you can now add Starfield to that list. But it had gotten so bad for a while that any mention of a game, any game other than Fallout or the Elder Scrolls, would be met with vicious comments, and some very ignorant ones like, "Why are you wasting your time with this when you could be making the Elder Scrolls?" Why is this an ignorant statement? Because people would make it on a game like the Wolfenstein trailer. Now please don't make me explain the difference between Bethesda Game Studios and Bethesda the publisher again. I remember those comments very well when Wolfenstein was announced and released. A game that went on to be named the best first-person shooter of the year, by the way, and also that game, Prey and The Evil Dead, led Bethesda to be named the #1 publisher of the year in 2017, the very same year that many in the Bethesda community were crying and complaining about it being a terrible E3. Come on, you guys remember that year. We all complained just because we didn't get Starfield. We didn't stop to think. This is the year they went on to be named the publisher of the year. This is the year they announced the #1 first-person shooter of the year. We didn't stop to appreciate all they showed us. The Bethesda community, the die-hard Bethesda community, the ones who love Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, seem to have a tunnel vision for Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, but they cannot seem to embrace the rest of Bethesda that is so good. A game like Prey, one of the better games that I've played in a long time, but yet it's not appreciated in the Bethesda community at all. It is a game like BioShock on steroids. I've heard its new DLC is even better. I can't wait to play it. I so wish the Bethesda community would learn to embrace it, would learn to embrace all things Bethesda, just like this channel strives to do. Now, was Prey and Wolfenstein, the Elder Scrolls, and Fallout? Of course not. But they didn't come from BGS, guys. They came from all of Bethesdasoftworks. Prey and Wolfenstein are just more amazing games made by more awesome studios in the Bethesda family. And Bethesda has so much to offer that I really believe is being enjoyed mainly by people outside of what we call the Bethesda community. The Bethesda community has become, again, so tunnel visioned that they cannot see anything but those 2 or now 3 games. And as hard as I try, I find myself falling into that tunnel sometimes. I had played Fallout Shelter before, leading up to Fallout 4, just as many of you guys. And I enjoyed it back then, but I thought I'd gotten out of it all that I could, and I stopped playing, especially when Fallout 4 was released. Well, as many of you guys know, this past week I went with my church to youth camp. No internet, it was hot, and I mean Arkansas, 100 degrees, 90% humidity, hot. The second day we were there, the power went out. I huddled in the cabin with the last remnants of the air conditioning lingering in the air, and all I had was my phone with no signal, no internet. Most of my mobile games wouldn't even play, well, all of them in fact, except for fallout shelter. The heat was also making my lupus flare up, so I was hurting terribly. So fallout shelter literally helped take my mind off the pain and off the heat. So I started a new vault because my old vaults from when I played back before Fallout 4 were already too big. I wanted a challenge. So I numbered my vault the same as my cabin and off I went. And as I played, it hit me. Bethesda has made so many different type games, such a wide variety. Online, offline, single player, multiplayer, mobile games, games for certain type players in certain type styles. Every game doesn't have to be for every type person and every type playstyle. If you don't like a game that Bethesda puts out, don't be selfish, don't gripe and complain. Understand that they have millions of fans like you and me that they're trying to rescue. If they only made one type of game, it might make you happy, it might make me happy, but it would alienate tens of thousands or maybe even millions. Again, my wish is that the core Bethesda community, yes, me and you who love Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and now who are looking forward to Starfield, we are the ones who really need to start appreciating Bethesda's work as a whole. Even if it doesn't always fit our playstyle, or if we don't exactly like it, we can appreciate a quality product. There shouldn't be hate every time a game is announced if it's not exactly what we wanted. That is really so silly and childish. So whether it's Fallout 76, the new online venture from Bethesda Game Studios, or a game like the upcoming open world single player Rage 2 from id Software, I think we should all be excited, or if not, supportive. If it's not your playstyle, they have plenty more to choose from. And man, am I glad they made that little mobile game, Fallout Shelter, because it sure did rescue me. And you might just be surprised what some Bethesda game might do for you one day, if you would just give it a chance. And by the way, last thing, I'm about to start a Twitch stream of Dishonored Death of the Outsider. So be sure to go join my Twitch page. That link is also down below in the description. Wow, again, it is good to be back in the King's Corner. And I'm so glad y'all stopped by and let me rant for just a minute. If you are able and willing, go check out my Patreon and support this channel. That link is also down below as well. I need to say a super special thank you to my newest Patreon, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it more than you will ever know. Thank you. Also listed on the screen is all of my Patreons from June. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, from my heart, you will not know how much your support has meant and does mean to me. If you haven't subscribed yet, come on. Why not? It's free. You've listened this long, and if you don't, Todd Howard will never, ever shake your hand. He won't. He told me so. I am the KingFanMan. I'll see you next time.